Yeah, so I am Venkat Raghava, as I am working as a RPA senior consultant in Infosys now. And this event is supported by Miracle Software Systems and powered by UiPath community. And yeah, so please, once completed the session, so please give your comments, feedbacks, and post in all the social medias, and help us to reach out to the extent on everyone, so that everyone can utilize this opportunity, as this is the free workshop. Yeah. So
Raghava, can you make Niklesh as a co-host, please?
Okay, yeah, sure. Just a minute. Just a minute, guys. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Niklesh.
Can you please pause the recording for some time? Once
Yeah.
Don't click on close, just pause it.
I haven't started, Niklesh, actually. Somebody did.
Somebody started, yeah, that's why. Yeah. So don't start, organizers, don't start until the first slide come. Okay, pause it. You can pause it now.
Your screen is yours. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, guys, thank you so much for joining this session on SQL database automation. So before I actually pitch into the session, I'd like to give a small introduction about myself for someone who don't know who I am and what I do. Yes, I'm having overall 6+ years of working experience, and before I actually start my career into UiPath, I worked as an automation developer. So there I have worked, in multiple projects. I have automated by using Selenium with Java and also Selenium with Python. So later I have gained interest towards automation, especially with UiPath, and I have transformed my career from Selenium automation tester or developer, whatever, to the UiPath developer. So currently I am working at UiPath through InnovSol, which is my parent company. So apart from that, I also have given multiple trainings and also workshops for students. I have collaborated in many sessions done by AP state government, and also I have done few UK events and also few government of India events. So I really have find a passion over doing these, and I also have a YouTube channel where I upload my learnings, where I thought that would be useful for everyone. And apart from that, I'm also trying something different, like writing blogs and all, where apart from the technical perspective. So that's all about me. I hope you will find this session really useful. So basically, I'm targeting this session not just for the people who have an idea about UiPath, but also if you're someone who don't know anything about UiPath but still wants to learn the database automation, you can really feel this session worthwhile. By end of this session, you can really automate something that that you have for yourself, or let's say if you have any small projects, so you can do that. So I have categorized the session in that way. So I hope you will end up learning something after this session. So having said that, I'm going into the session and I'm going to show you what exactly we will be taking step by step as a part of this session. Let me stop over the video and I will do the screen sharing, and we will take the practical sessions as well. I will show you right from the scratch. I'm doing the screen. Okay, I'm doing the screen sharing from the other machine. I'm getting an echo. Just give me a second. I'll either exit from here. Raghava, that is fine, right? If I can exit from this machine and just
one minute, Harika. Actually, here you are the host. Actually, So please give the host rights again to Raghava, so that the session will not be ended.
I'll just mute this one just a second.
Just make Raghava the host. Please transfer the rights to him. So he has mistakenly given the host rights to you.
Cool, cool, yeah. He's the host now.
Yes, Harika, thank you. Yeah, as you have maintained the
I
two
will
different.
just mute from this mission and I'll join in that mission and do the screen share, and just let me know if you are getting any echo or something. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah. As you maintained two different machines, no, so that I just got confused. Yeah. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Kiran, can you confirm if you're getting any echo or something?
It's clear. It's clear.
Okay, fine. Yeah, we are good to go ahead. Okay. So you can see my screen, right? Agenda.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, guys, we are going to see at all of these things that I'm sharing on the screen right now. So starting from database. So I understand that it's a workshop that concentrate mostly on the people who are trying to learn UiPath right from the scratch. So I'd like to introduce everything right from the basics. So I'm gonna detail every bit of it. So I'm gonna talk about the database and why we are actually doing this automation. And I have the SQL database right now handy with me. So I'm going to show you how we can do this automation on SQL database particularly, and what all the actions that we can perform on the database, right? So all these first I'll show you, like this theory part will really helps you understand when we go into the practical sessions that I'm going to show in this whole session. So firstly we will talk about this. So basically what is your understanding on the database? So if you just ask me, there is never a project that I have never done without data, not just an automation project for that matter. It can be any project. Data is the most crucial thing. So database is one such repository where we can actually store the data, right? So here if you ask me how effectively we can do the automation, how effectively we can perform all these actions, so let me go to the database, SQL database that I have, and I'm going to show you um, then try it from the scratch. So here I have my database, and you can just install this SQL server into your machine. I will also provide you the link from where exactly you can download this. And if you already have this handy with you, you can even do the session parallelly while I'm explaining this, because I will be explaining step by step how we can basis of our own.
Harika, sorry, we cannot hear you.
And do things, am I not able?
Yes.
Hello,
Yeah, it's better now. Thank you. Please go ahead.
let me. Is it clear now, Kiran?
Yes, Harika, better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think that was my internet. Okay, what I was actually saying here is like if you have this SQL database handy with you, you can just do multiple use cases. You can just apply it and then you can get more hands-on over it. So before we actually go into the studio and do everything, let's get some understanding on what all we can firstly perform on, like on a database. Okay, so firstly, if you have this with you, let me show you how you can create a things from right from the scratch. So here, if you see, I have my databases already that I have created. So if you just go here, you have options, right, to connect and to do everything. So here I'm going here and I'm just doing a new database. I'm creating a new database here. So let's give some name. So going forward in this video, I'm going to show what all actions that we will perform on this particular database I'm creating right now. So let's give some name. UiPath. Okay, so I'm creating a demo database. So if you just see inside the database, we have multiple things, right? So basically, as I said you, it's a repository. It contains information in the form of rows and columns. So all these rows and columns are stored inside the table. So in order to call a particular in order to store or to retrieve a particular information, we have to actually create tables. Okay, so if you see inside this database, we have tables. So now I'm going to create a new table. So if you see, we have columns, right? So if you just give the columns, it's just like a header that we have in an Excel sheet. So I'm going to create something like student name. This is one header, and student ID, marks, grade. So just some information regarding the students and the school information that I'm going to execute now. So if you just see, these are all of the data types nchar. So apart from nchar, we have multiple other data types as well. We can just provide in as per our requirement of the project, but we have to make sure whatever we are providing, that should be in line with the data that is coming from the studio. Okay, so I just created the columns and then just save this table. I'm going to save it as student info table. Okay, so this is how I can just save the table. Just refresh here. You can see the students info table under this particular database. So now if you just see here, we have created a database, and inside database we've created a table which has certain columns, right? So going forward, what are the actions that we're going to perform on this particular columns, or the data that we have in the database? So if you just see, if you are someone who don't know, who have never written a query, SQL query, it's still fine. We have an option to, let me go to the table. So if you just see here, we just have scripting option. Okay, so if you just click here, you can actually insert the data. So what is the scripting actually does? So if I wanted to insert certain data into this particular data table, which have these all column information, so these are the values that goes into this particular column. So let me give one example and show you how you can do that. So even if you don't have or never written a SQL query, this is how you can generate a basic SQL query. So firstly, you have to understand to write the complex queries. So the basic ones are like this. Even though if it's a complex query, still we can do it by using UiPath Studio. But let's start from the basic and understand it. So I am giving the student name information here. So we are inserting these values into this particular database. I'm giving an ID, and I'm providing the marks and then the grade. Okay. So this is something like a syntax how we write while we do a coding. So we have to make sure that all these values are separated by a command inside the codes. So if I just click on execute, we can see that one row got affected, right? So we will also see how we will get the output while we do this in the studio as well. But for that, you have to understand why we are writing certain query, what it actually does, apart from doing it in an automation, and how we can actually perform that through automation. Okay. So what I'm going to do to check what is the value it is, let me script a query again, which is select. So this query got generated and I'm going to execute. So these are the values that I have provided, right? By using an insert query. So basically insert is something which will inserts the data into this particular database data table, and then select is something which will retrieve the data. And apart from that, we also have update and delete functions, I mean the statements, which we can do, but going forward we will see what exactly those are and how we can actually perform them. So that's all in this understanding, like, the theory kind of thing that I can say, we will see. Let me pull up a notepad. So I have divided this session into a particular sections. Okay, so let's say what I'm going to focus on the section 1. We have seen what is a database, and how to create the tables and columns, and how to create a particular database and everything. So if you don't know how we can do scripting, we have also seen how we can do the scripting as well. Let me how we can do the scripting as well. And now we will be going and seeing in the section 2. Let me just highlight before I actually give you a brief about it. So I'm going to take you to the studio and show you what are the packages that we need to install before we actually perform something from the studio on the SQL database, and what are the activities available. And later I'm going to talk about how we can establish the connection. And I will talk about activities in detail, like what or execute, query, execute non-query and all. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to concentrate on the section 2. So firstly, I will see what are the packages that we need in order to perform the actions on the SQL from the studio. So let me go over here. If you see in the packages, all packages, we have UiPath.database.activities. So to perform any of the actions on the database that you wanted to access, so you should have this package into your machine. You should have this installed in your machine. So you just have to install and save it to your machine, and then you will get that into your project. So here it is. I'm having this already installed. So once after that's done, we can go ahead and perform the activities. So let's see what are the database activities. So once after you can install, you can see all these are the different activities that we have, right? So first of all, to perform any of the action, you should have a connection between from where you wanted to access, and which is the end destination that you wanted to access, right? So let's say if I want to access SQL database, how I should establish a connection. So this activity will be helping us. And as a best practice, whenever the work is done, or execution of the query is done, we have to make sure that the connection is disabled. So for that we have to disconnect it. So SQL query and execute non-query and the execute query is something like, let me take a sequence first, and I'll pull these queries. Okay, so if you see, I hover on that particular activity, as I said you earlier, I have taken you to the SQL database and I've shown you how we can perform an insertion and a selection, right? So in order to perform those activities through the studio, we should have particular establishment of the connection and everything. So to do that, we have execute non-query, which is the activity that will be helpful for updating, inserting, and the deleting. So these three actions can be done by using execute non-query. And execute query is something which will be useful for the selection process. So output of this will be varying. We will say everything in detail going forward, but on a high level, we will be using these two activities, right? So let's explore more into it. I'm gonna let's see how we can actually establish the connection from the studio to the SQL database. Okay, so first for that, let me take a sequence of inserting data into SQL. Okay, so for that, what I would be taking first, I first have to create a connection. I have to establish a connection. So you have to keenly look into this part, because this is most crucial. If the connection is not established properly, then there is definitely nothing we can do going forward, right? So let's explore the properties of it. if you see, we have something called as connection string. So this is the one that is used to establish the connection for the database. And we have something called as provider name. So if you're already having a connection string, you can directly provide in over here. But if you don't have, let me show you how you can do it. So just click on the configure connection. And here you will be seeing an option for database connection. Just click on it. And if you see, you can have multiple databases, right? As I said, it's just a repository where you are storing the information. So here in this session, I'm going to concentrate on SQL Server. So I'm gonna pick SQL Server. So if someone's project requirement is Oracle, they can go ahead for the Oracle database and everything of that kind. So as we have created the database and the tables in the SQL Server, I'm going to use the SQL Server for this video. So just click on SQL Server. And if you see here, we have to provide in the server name, right? So what is the server name and where I can get it from? So as I said, you wanted to access the SQL Server. So that's a destination. So where is my destination? This is the one. So I am going to click on connect. So if you see, I have my server name here. Just copy this server name and come over here and then just paste it. So once after you paste it, you have got the option for selecting the database from. But before to that, you can either provide the authentication using username and the password, and also your Windows authentication. So I'm using Windows credentials, so I'm not going to change this. And if you just see, we will be if you click on the drop down, you can see all the databases that you have under this particular server. Okay, so which is the database that we just created? UiPath database demo, right? I'm going to connect to that. This is the one. Okay, so this is the database name I have provided. And after that, I'm going to first test the connection. So if you see, test connection is succeeded. So that means there's a connection established between my UiPath Studio and to the database server that I wanted to access. So I'm just clicking OK. And once after I click on OK, I'll have my connection string. So this is the connection string that I was talking about. So let's see what are the things that comes into the connection string once after you establish the connection. So the first thing is data source, which is the server name. Okay. And after that, we have initial catalog, which means our data table name, the database name, UiPath database demo. And it also have an integrated security. So it shows a Boolean value, which is it's secured or not. Okay. So just say okay. And we also have the provider name, which is by defaultly has come because we have selected SQL Server, right? So it shows system.data.sql client. So these two things will be generated automatically after you configure the connection. So after that, what I'm going to do here, if you just observe in the properties, we have something called as database connection as an output variable. So this is something like, okay, let me show you these activities. So I'm going to use execute non-query. So if you see, I already have again configure connection here. So do you think I will be going here and doing the connection every time I use an activity? No, right? We obviously wanted to reduce the number of steps that we do while doing automation. So instead that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a variable here. So control K is a shortcut for creating variables. So I'm going to create a, and if you just see, I'm going to show you the output variable type. So what this variable actually does, instead of doing a connection again and again. Hello, can you hear me, Kiran?
Yes, Harika, we can hear you.
Yes, it's clear. It
Okay,
was
fine.
breaking a bit, but it was fine.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm actually doing is I am using the same connection that I have established here. So how can I do that? If you see, if you have a connection string, you can provide the connection string. Otherwise, you can use the existing connection. So what is my existing connection? Just now I have created it, right? So this is my existing connection. So this will This will be helpful to retain the connection that I have already established. Okay, so instead of doing the rework again, I just take the variable and provide in here. So that's how we can actually establish the connection. So just I'll put a log message and show you. Okay, so just that we are making sure. So we can see that this step got executed successfully, and we have made a connection established between the studio and the SQL. Okay, this is my insert query. Okay, so this is my insert query, right? So as I told you that execute non-query is useful for doing the operations like you can just see in the message box that after I hover on the activity, right, it is used for update, insert and delete. So I can use the update query inside this particular execute non-query, or I can use insert and delete to perform the certain execution. So I have already provided query here. So just click on the edit query. You'll get a SQL query tab. Provide in the query under double quotes. Okay. So this is how you can actually provide. Let me change the name. You can see this value should be getting inserted into my database after I execute this particular query. Okay, so I'm changing the values. So let's say okay. And let's explore other properties before I actually execute this. So if you see here, the output type is so affected records. If you remember, when I have executed this, it shows one row got affected, right? In the same way, in Studio, we have something called affected records. So it shows how many records got affected on execution of certain query. Okay, so let's see how many rows got affected. So I'm gonna give a variable number of rows, okay, or number of records. And also, let's put a log message to see how many rows are affected after. Let's debug this. Okay.
Hey Harika, I think like we are not able to hear your voice and the screen got stuck.
Harika, can you hear us?
Maybe
Yeah, Kiran, I can hear. I just got disconnected. Now I can hear. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, Harika, we can see your screen. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Sorry, it was my internet. Okay, so so I was just executing this query that we had in the SQL database, and we can how we have done the insertion. In the same we can do the updating as well. So Here, something that you have to check it. Yeah.
Harika, sorry for disturbing. I think your voice is breaking a lot. Can you just go a little bit slow? I think we are not able to hear you properly.
Coming in nuts, Harika. Your voice is coming in nuts.
Sure. Just a second. I'll try to switch the network.
Okay.
Guys, sorry. So are you able to hear? I'm getting some messages.
No, actually, like we have said the same. The Harika is trying to like switch to the new network. Just wait for a couple of minutes.
Niklesh, can you hear us?
Guys, please wait for a couple of minutes. We have some small network issue, so we'll be
Kiran,
connecting.
can you hear me?
It's
Is it still
better.
breaking?
It's better. It is better.
Okay. But let me know if it is breaking. I'm gonna stop and try to reiterate what I said.
Sure, definitely.
Yep. Thank you. So guys, I'm actually going to the next query, which is an update query. So what exactly we are doing is we're gonna update this particular data table with under a certain condition circumstances. So let's say I'm gonna change the name of the student. So let's go to a different name, Monica, and I'm gonna write this particular query once to make you understand how we can actually do this, so that going forward we'll use the same query, and the student ID is 127 or something, and the marks, and I'm going to provide the grade. Okay, and so here I have to provide in the condition where the student name is certain student name, where I can just select it from here. Student name is, so if the student name is Harika, I'm going to change and update that to this particular value. Okay, so let's execute this. So we can see one row got affected, and we can just check it in the select query as well. So the previous record got updated to this particular record. Okay, so let's try to do the same with, it's very simple that we have to use a new execute non-query, or I can just do the same thing here, because we will be using execute non-query for updating as well. So just replace this with this. Okay, I copied it. I'm copying this one. Just a simple change that we are doing. Okay, just insert this thing over here and say okay, but instead of Harika, because I don't have records for Harika, I have just updated it, right? So keep it as Kiran and say okay, right? So once after that's done, let me comment out this because we are not doing the insertion operation here. So after executing this, it should give me the records with Monica as well. This row should get updated, correct? So let's run it and see. Okay, let's refresh it. So we can see that the records got updated. So this is very simple, right? So in the same way we can do for deletion as well. Just the thing is we have to change the query. So let's go here, and for deletion we don't have to write these lines of code as well. Just come here like how we were doing earlier, just script the table to provide the delete query. So I'm gonna delete the whole table without any conditions. Just come and provide in the value. So this query is to delete the whole student info table information. So here we have two rows that are already there. So on execution of this particular
activity, it should give me number of rows as 2. Here we were having only 1, but going forward it should be 2 because we were having already 2 rows of information, right? So let's see that. So it's 2 and the 2 rows got affected, and we can just see there shouldn't be any data in the data table. Okay, so this is how we can actually use execute non-query to perform actions like insertion, updation, and the deletion. And now if you see, every time I am using select query and I'm executing it from the database, so SQL server, right? So to do this particular action in the studio itself, how can I do that? So I'm going to copy this whole query. So I will be using execute query here. Here I'm gonna, firstly I should establish the connection. So I have an existing connection which is DB connection, and come over the edit query tab and provide in the select query, right? So that's it. Now we can see the data coming from here, and before to that, go to the properties of execute query. And here we can see what is the output of it. The output of this is a data table, right? So whatever the data that you are getting, it will be in a form of a table from the select query. So in order to retrieve it and use it further, I'm going to use a variable. Let me create a variable which is DT student table. Okay, and we all know how to write the data table into an Excel file. I'm going to use write range activity. Just pull that over here. Take off the range. So from which table I want to write? Student table, that's coming from here. And I wanted to write it into some table that I'm going to use, some Excel sheet name that you can provide, right? So I'm going to provide student table demo dot xlsx. It's an Excel sheet. And just select this add headers so that the headers of the table will be getting added, right? I'm gonna comment out the previous things so that my information will be restored. And what is it? I'm gonna insert this, and perfect. So let me do it in debug and I'll show you step by step. Okay, I'm gonna debug the file. So before I actually debug, so we don't have any data on the data table. Once after I click on step into, so if you're not sure how to do debug, that's completely fine. I'm just doing this to make you understand what's happening at every step. So I have done the insertion now, so we can see the data. So this is one record that we have in the data table, and it shows number of rows is how many rows it got affected, 1, right? So we can see 1 row got affected. And now this query is used to fetch the details, just like how we are running this query in the SQL. In the same way, this details will be fetched along with the headers. So the output of this is DT students table. So before execution, there is nothing. It's a null value, right? So before execution of this, it is it. So once I click a step into, now let's see what is the value inside that particular table. So if you see, it has fetched all the records that are there in the database, right? So these values, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write it into this particular Excel sheet. Done. So just come over here, and where is the students table? This is the one. So we can see that the data got extracted into my local, right? So this is how we can actually perform and fetch the data. So this is one way of doing it. But if you see and look keenly into this, we have a drawback, right? We, in every of the query that we are using, if you just see the insert query, all the data are being static, all the data are being hard coded, right? So let's say if you wanted to pass the data dynamically, or if you wanted to use, so if you see in the edit query, we have something called as parameters, right? So how we can actually use the parameters and everything, let me just show you how we can do that. For that, I'm gonna take a new sequence. Okay, so now let's see the same things that we have done earlier, just by using the data inside the query. The same things I will be passing using the parameters. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to copy the same activities because it's kind of similar that we are doing, but just explaining the concept of the parameters. So I'm going to establish the connection. Okay, after that, I'm using execute non-query. So what I'm doing here, instead of using this data inside the query, I'm going to use a parameter. So how to do that, how to pass these values as a parameter. Okay, just click on the parameters. You can see the window got opened, and I'm going to create a parameter here. So what's the parameter? Student name is the value that I wanted to pass first. So just give a student name, and that is going into the query, right? So that's an input variable, input argument. And what is the value that I have to pass? So I'm going to create a variable here. So what is it? Name of the student. And in the same way, I'm going to create for ID, marks, and the grade. Okay, so I'm going to give student ID and create a variable ID later for marks. And marks, student marks, something. I am just trying to give a different name for the variables and the arguments so that you don't get confused. Okay, student marks, and then the grade. And okay, so I have created the variables, and these are the arguments. So I have to now create a connection that my arguments should be passed into the query, right? So how can I do that? So you just ignore these warnings that will be just because the variables that we've created here. So let me show you how we can establish the connection. Here I'm deleting these. Just go over here. So what are the values that I have to pass? Those are the arguments, right? So at the rate, just given the same argument that you have created. So I'm giving at the rate student name and at the rate student ID. Make sure that you're passing the argument's name exactly. Let me show you those values as well. Okay, so these are the arguments that I'm passing. Okay, that just I have created. Say okay, and here you can see all the values of the parameters. So student name, student ID, marks, and the grade should be in line with what we are passing over here in the edit query. Name, ID, marks, and the grade, right? So we have passed, but what is the value that we are taking into that particular argument? It's a variable, right? So these are the variables that I have created. So now let me just give some values from here. So okay, so I'm going to provide these values. So these variables have these particular values, which are the default values that I have given here. And once after these variables pick up those values, those will be given as arguments into these arguments, because this is an indirection, and those arguments will be sent into these values, and the values will be inserted into the database. So this is how we are actually doing through parameters. So this is one thing. Going forward, we will see how we can see that we can do this thing dynamically as well. So okay, now I'm going to execute this, and we will see how the data is getting reflected. Okay, So it's clear. We have only one line of information. I'm gonna run this file. Right, let's see the data got executed or not. See, whatever the data that I'm passing through the variables and from the variables into the arguments, and from that arguments I'm passing it as a parameter into the query. So this is how we can actually use a parameters concept in order to pass the variables. So now, but still, if this data is being somehow, static, right? So what I'm going to do here, let's take a input dialog. Okay, so I'm going to take an input dialog, and I'm going to provide these values whenever I execute this particular workflow. So I'm going to type in only the student name. So basically, input dialog is used to take the values from the user that is running the automation. So if you're not sure why we are using this activity, let me just explain you while this process runs. Okay, so it's of type text, and what is the value that we have to enter? Just create the variable. Okay, here I have already the variable name is name of the student, right? So I'm going to use that particular variable. So this will be fetched from here and will be passed into this particular query. So let me take off this default value, and let me debug this file. So if you see, it will just provides you a pop-up, something of this kind, and you have to provide in the name of that particular variable that we are passing. So once after I provide the value, that will be stored under this particular output value. Let me show you. I'm gonna provide Chandler and say okay, and a record will be created here with that particular name, right? So this is how I have done. So what is the thing? The output variable name that we are giving is name of the student. So that is going as a variable into an argument which is student name, and that we are passing it as a parameter into this particular data table. So this is how we can actually do. This is one small example. So the same thing, just like how we have done for inserting, in the same way we can actually perform for updating, deleting as well. So let me quickly take one example for updating. So rest for deleting and everything you can just do by yourself, because that's not a big thing. Okay, let me get the update query from here. Okay, so I'm gonna update this query. Okay, so what actually I'm doing, I'm gonna again create the parameters, or I can use the existing parameters only, but as I don't have one created here, so let me do one thing. I'm going to update this particular table with the student name. So instead of passing it as a static value from here, I'm going to pass it as a parameter, right? So you just have to link it the parameter that we have already created. Okay, and then provide in student ID and later marks and then grade. So where the student name here also, let's say if I am having a particular name, I wanted to change it to different name, right? So okay, let me show you here. In the database, I have 3 records already. So let's say if my student name is Kiran, I wanted to change this to something else. Okay, so here I will provide in a different parameter. Before to that, let me create one. So I would say new student. This is my parameter, so I have to create this over here, right? Because I have all of this already created. And then I'm creating a new parameter, which is new student, and the value for this new student value or variable. You can just to make sure that we have different names, I'm just providing here. Just say okay, and then okay, right? So whenever the value of the student is different, I'm gonna change it from here. So name of the student, I'm gonna give it let's say Joy, and here I'm going to change the value of the variable to new student value. So what is happening, I'm gonna provide in a value that's gonna update my existing record. So let's say if I give Kiran or Harika or Chandler, so any of these names if I have provided in my input dialog, that's gonna replace or update that particular row of information with the information that I'm providing through the parameters. So what are the parameters? These are the variables and these are the values, right? So these values will fetch the information and it's gonna change the values from this particular query. So let's run this and see. Okay, so this is my update query. Before to that, I'm gonna put a breakpoint and show you. Okay. Okay, so if you see, new student value is something that I have to provide. Okay, so it should be, let's say I'm having Kiran. I'm passing this value, and so this value, this will be fetched, and wherever the student name is Kiran, that will be overridden by the information that I have provided. Okay, so before to that, the values would be the same. So Kiran and Harika and Chandler are there, right? So let's do a step into and see how this actually changed now. So if you see, that particular record information got updated. So this is how we can actually do by using the parameters. So let me just iterate this quickly to show you whatever we've covered till now. So initially we have first done the insertion by using a normal query, like with all the data inside the particular query. And after that, we have used parameters and how we can actually declare parameters, how we can pass the variables from the parameters. And let's say if there is an user involvement that's there, and how we can actually pass it through the input that we have taken from the user. So this particular value, we can pass it as a variable from here into the name, right? So this is how we can actually do by using this. But if you just observe everything, whatever the queries that we are executing, it's just inserting only a single line of data, right? But in real time, we don't have this kind of facility, or it won't be that much effective to use execution of the queries in the real time only for inserting a small line of data, or fetching the data. So instead, we will be having a huge set of data. If we want to do the insertion or something, then we can use this particular query execution, or database automation. So let's see how we can actually push bulk amount of the data from our Excel sheets or from the local databases into the SQL server. So for that, let me take a new sequence. Okay, I'm gonna push bulk data. So for everything, the first and the foremost thing that I can do is establishing a connection. Okay, so once after that's done, let me show you the data that I have. Okay, so let's say I'm having all this data that I wanted to push into my database. Okay, so if you see, we have 57 rows of information. So it holds the same even if you have 1,000 rows of information as well. So how I'm going to do that? So firstly, let's identify the dots, and then we can connect the dots. So what is the thing? We have first data in our local in a particular Excel sheet. So that thing we have to first read it, right? So to read it, we have something called as read range. The first thing, and I'm going to read the date from which workbook. So this is my workbook. I'm going to read the data from here and just take off this range. What exactly I'm doing, I have to provide it into a data table, right? So just give a DT input table, just for simple terminology. So once after I provide it into a data table, I have to push this into my database. So how we have done that till now, we are inserting the data, right? Just I'm going to copy the previous insert execute non-query with insert statement, and I'm going to paste it here. So we are doing this particular thing, but we have seen how many rows got affected on executing this particular activities. Only one, right? So if you wanted to do it for multiple times for all the rows that are there in this sheet, we should loop it, right? So for looping, we have activities like for each row. So we have a data table, right? So I can directly take for each row in this data table. Let's push this over here. So what is the input for this? I'm having a data table, DT input table, and I'm gonna do this particular insertion, and then let me, okay. So still we have an error, student marks. Okay, so we have some errors here. Let's go into the parameters. So if you see, we have all these parameters, right? So name of the student, ID, marks, and the grades. These are the variables that we have created earlier. So, but these variables we haven't created in this particular workflow. But I am going to use the variables which are coming from the data table, right? So how we can actually fetch the values from this data table with respect to current row value. Okay, so let me show you. I'm not going to use these values anymore. So current row means that particular row in that particular Excel sheet. So let me take up that Excel sheet. So if you see, I'm gonna insert the values from this particular table for each row of the data that's there here. Okay, so for that, I'm gonna fetch the table header and give here. So at each time, the value in the current row will come up, right? Current row, which is student name dot toString, because it's of type string. So we are passing that particular value, which is in that particular row value. Okay, so let me show you everything in detail while I run the process in the debug mode. But you have to remember one thing here very clearly is you have to take the exact header of it. Otherwise, it's gonna throw an error. Current row of student ID dot toString. And what is the value for the marks? It's this. If you miss out the headers, then it's gonna throw an error. And what's for the grade? Just copy this, then that's it. We have taken all the values and we've stored into the arguments, and we're passing into the execute non-query. Okay, just say save, and we are good. So let me show you how this actually execute, and at each step I'll put a breakpoint and you can see what is happening and how we can easily insert a bulk amount of data into the database. So before to that, we have 3 rows of information, and I'm gonna debug the file. Okay, this is open. Let me close this file. Okay, let me stop. I forgot to press the retry. Okay, so I'm gonna do an insertion for the first row element is, if you see, we have 3 rows, right? So it should go and insert 1 row of data. Let me, right? So this is how we can do. And let me do a continue. If I do multiple times, all the data would be coming and showing up over here. Right, we can see the difference here. So let me take off the breakpoint and hit on continue. So we had 57 rows of data. So we can see previously we have 3 more rows in the database already. So it shows 59 rows over here, right? So all the data got inserted. So now let's take, we have seen how we can do this particular operation, right? So let's say just take a scenario where there's a school and it has so many classes and the information about all the students in that particular database. So if you wanted to push the data, let me show you. So let's say this is the information that I have for the different class students. Okay, so let me take one class. So if you see under class 10, I'm having all the students information, name, ID, marks, grade, and the class. So in each class, all these sheets are maintained for every class. Every a class teacher or someone is maintaining all this information with all the students info data. So what I'm actually doing, I'm gonna run an automation which will fetch the data not just from a single sheet but from all the sheets that are there in this particular folder. Okay, and what it is going to do, it's gonna upload into a server where the main admin department people can access. Okay, so that's the requirement. So now let's see how easily we can do that. So for that, I'm not going to change anything, just a small thing that I'm going to do. If you see in this particular Excel sheet, I'm having a column called class, right? So first, let's go to the database and create a column. So to the existing table, I'm gonna create. Okay, let me do one thing already. Because if you see here, we have created a table where we don't have a particular column, right? So now I'm going to use this table which I already have, right? Let me put a select query. So if you see, I'm having an existing table where all this information were already there, right? So for this particular data table, let's do it right from the scratch and finish off this whole execution in a new workflow. Okay, so in this, let me stop the execution. In this sequence, I'm going to show what are the things we have we have learned right from the scratch in a single workflow. Okay, so for that, I'm going to show, let's say, upload students data of all classes, or okay, so now the requirement is clear, right? I'm going to upload all these sheets data into the SQL in a single run. So for that, I'm going to establish a connection. So just take this, but I'm going to use a different table here. So for that, I'm going to do a configuration, right? Which is okay, let me take the server. Okay, this is not responding. Just give me a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna do, so this is just a kind of reiterating everything we have learned. Okay, so I'm gonna use what is the database that I'm having with me. So this is the demo database, right? So I'm gonna select it from demo database and I'm gonna establish the connection. So once that is done, I got my connection string. So you should be really clear about what I'm showing right now, because we've seen all of these things earlier. So we have established the connection, and now I'm going to do this particular operation, so which is inserting the data from all these tables, right? So let's again form the dots. So what's the first thing we have to do? We have to read the data from an Excel and we have to insert it into the data table. So for that, I'm going to use a read range. Okay, so what is the table name I'm going to get it from? So let's say inside this, I'm gonna first get the class 8 data, and I'm gonna use this output variable here, right? So here, so in that way we cannot do this particular thing from each sheet, right? It's like a multiple, it's like a hectic thing that we are going to do. So in order to fetch the data from all the sheets that are there, I'm going to use one more looping here, which is for each. Okay, so for each item inside, so in order to fetch all the sheets inside this particular folder, what I'm going to use, I'm going to use a directory class dot get files. So what this actually do, it's a class that has a get files method. Okay, so this will get the files from all inside this particular folder that we are giving. So let me maximize this and show you. Okay, so directory dot get files, and from where exactly we should get it? See, this is my folder name, right? So just copy this, and I'm gonna provide in the folder name, and inside this folder, what is the file name I wanted to fetch? I want to fetch all these files. So all of these Excel files, right? So it is ending with an extension .xlsx. So I'm not really bothered about what is the file name, but I want all the Excel files. So for that, I'm going to use a wildcard, which is star, and it's going to end with xlsx extension. So this particular line of code will fetch all the Excel files from this particular folder, irrespective of what is the name of that particular Excel file name. Okay, so once after we do that, one more thing we have to change is the argument type is it's going to return a string. So let's change this to class sheet. Okay, for each class we are fetching that, right? So at a time this contains one Excel. So first time it contains class 8, next time it contains class 5, right? Like that. So we know what we have to do after it. We just have to pull it over here inside this. So at this particular time, it should take one sheet at a time, right? So firstly, it will fetch class 8 sheet, and from that sheet, whatever the data table we are getting, we are executing the insertion, right? We are executing it and we are pushing the data. That's it. And one more thing we have to change here is the data table name and the query that we've written, because it's in a different table. So script 2, just take these values alone and change over here. Okay, so it's just that whatever I have explained you with the small examples, we are combining everything and we are doing it. So parameters would remain same except for one thing, which is class, because we are having class as well, right? In this sheet dot toString. Make sure we have the same name as that of in the header. Okay, and here just passing the argument. Say okay. So just by running this workflow, I should get everything inside this data table. So for that, let me put a select first. I'm just checking what is there already. So I already have some data in this data table, student details table, right? So I'm going to delete the data before I do the execution. So how can we do that? Just take a scripting delete. Quite easy that we pull the queries from here. So 56 rows got affected. That means all the rows got deleted. And now if you just go and execute this, it should be 0, right? And now I'm going to run this workflow, and it's gonna fetch the details from all these tables inside this folder, and it's gonna upload. Okay, so just run this file. Okay, I'm sorry, just close this. Run file. Done. If you see, it's just done in very fastly, not even a second, right? So just come over here and execute the query. We can see 91 rows got affected. That means you can see the class information as well. So class 8, class 5, 4, all the details that are there from each sheet, all the data got affected. So now this can be done from one place, right? So from, let's say, all the teachers come and then they just upload their files. Just by executing this workflow, you can just push the data into the database. And now if someone wants to fetch the data from the other side, so let's say if there is an admin, okay, so if the admin wants to fetch the data from the other side, they can easily do by using the select query. So that's quite simple, right? So let me execute query. This would be the last one, and we are going to end the session after this. So I'm gonna use the same DB connection and the data table that I have. So let's create one more table, DT output table, okay. And once after we have that, I'm gonna execute the query by inserting over here. So what's my query? This one. So let's enhance this a bit. I don't want all the information. I just want information where the student is from class 10, okay, or class 9 is equal to 9, okay. So if you see, I want only this much information. So let's copy this and paste it over here. Let's say okay. Okay. And then I'm gonna write into a table, sorry, write range. And what I'm doing, I'm saving this into my local with the class name information. Okay, so class, so the number should be, let's say if you want this to pass it as a dynamic variable, we know it, right? So how we can do, just give in the class name value, class variable, say okay, and then pass it over here at the rate class, and say okay. And what is the variable name that we should provide in? Just say I want only 9th, okay. So I'm passing the class variable. So this is how we can dynamically give, and then it should be XLSX, okay. What is a data table that we are getting? The output table, right? So just run this workflow. We should get all the variables or the data rows that are there for the students of the 9th class, and it should come over here. So if you see class 9 XLSX. So as an admin, I wanted to fetch only class 9 information, right? So this is how actually we can do this part. So we have seen everything, how we can do static data and how we can establish the connection, how we can pass it through parameters. And also if it's a something using the attended automation, if you want to fetch the data from the user, you can still do it by using this, and in which is a practical scenario by passing the bulk data. And this is one of the small data the things that we encounter in the real time, like pushing the data from multiple files or multiple Excel sheets. So now if you wanted to access this code, if you wanted to play around it, I'm having a Git repository where you can access the whole project from. So let me just show you that. I actually got logged in. Okay, so this is my Git repository I am already having. So let me create a repository for the SQL itself. So I'm going to upload all my files that we have seen in this session. So into this particular repository, you can just use this particular GitHub link. I'm going to send it in the chat. So you can just use this particular repository and you can access the whole project from here. So you will be getting whatever I have in my project folder, like the input data, output data, and the XAMLs that we have seen in this particular session. So I will upload everything into the GitHub. So you can just go and you can just take the code into your local, just play around and try to get more hands-on. And also, as I have said you, these are something which are the basics that you have to know to do more like a real-time project. So that's why I have explained everything in detail, how to pass it as a static data, parameters, and the bulk upload and everything. So try to get more hands-on on this, and then you can actually do good at your real-time projects. So that's all that I have. So I think Kiran, you can go ahead with Mentimeter questions or whatever the next part. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yes, before just going with that, like, so can we request audience to just switch on the cameras so that like we can just take a small snapshot and we can just go ahead with the Mentimeter.
Sure, definitely.
Uh,
I'm gonna switch to the other machine then.
Okay, so first of all, Harika, thank you so much for your time and giving this database automation using UiPath. So guys, I hope everyone gone through the session, and we have learned like some basic CRUD operations, like how to create, how to retrieve, update, delete kind of, and how to transfer the data from one form to another. And so yeah, we have learned and we have a good session. Yeah, so guys, please switch on your camera so that we'll take a photographs now. So Harika, please uh, stop sharing the session, and please everyone switch on your video so that we'll take some photographs. Thank you.
Just give us a couple of minutes. Let Harika join and we can just continue with the Menti.com.
Okay.
So I've just like posted the ID also of Menti.com so that like users like be ready with that. Like we can just go ahead with that.
Kiran, can you hear me? I'm actually
Yes.
on the other mission.
Yes.
I'm actually connecting from the other mission, so you can just go ahead with the Mentimeter as well.
So that's great. Okay, let me just share the screen. So everybody just ready with this ID. Okay. So let me just share the screen. Please let me know like if you're able to see my screen. And I can see.
Yes,
like,
Kiran, you can see your screen. So
I can
guys, please ready for the quiz. Kiran is sharing his screen, and he have mentioned the ID as well for the Mentimeter. So the ID is 64191080, guys. 64191080. So guys, for yesterday's quiz, still we haven't received the details. And again, repeating, so whoever already the winners for the previous sessions, so we won't consider them as a winners. So the goodies and awards we give to the next users. Okay.
Let's wait for a couple of minutes so we can see around like 240 people were there in the session.
Yeah. So guys, so please join the Mentimeter and participate in the quiz and get ready to grab the gifts, please.
But in the session, we can see like 350 plus people. I'm like 400 plus people were there. So
Yeah.
Please do join so that we can just start it in a minute. It was already 8:30, so we won't take much of your time on the weekend.
Yeah.
Raghav, oh, 1 second.
Yes, I have done, Harika. Okay, guys, I hope everyone connected to Menti. So again, I'm repeating the code, guys, 64191080. So
I think we are good to go.
yes, Kiran. Yeah, please go ahead. So guys, get ready for the first question. Yeah.
So please see your screen so that like you can get the things done there.
Yeah. So guys, the first question is, what all the parameters to be provided while connecting Studio to database? So is it a server name, database and server name, and the database name? The three are the options. So please select and give your best, guys. And we have 5-4 seconds more. Yeah, time is left. Let's wait for the how many gave the correct answers. Yeah, 224. The count is good. Thanks, guys. I hope everybody's listened the session very nicely. Okay, so let's wait for the second question. Onto the screen, please.
Get ready for the second question on the screen.
So guys, the question is the second question. What is the data type of output variable from execute non-query? Guys, it is execute non-query. Options are A, data table, B, string, and C, integer. We have 10 seconds left. 9, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1. This guys, time's up. So let's wait for the answer. Oh, so it's a neutral kind of. So a lot of guys thought that it's a data table and string, but the correct answer is integer. Okay. Okay, so let's move to the third question. Question 3 of 3. So what is the output data type of execute query, guys? So this is about the execute query. So answers are again data table, string, and integer. So please don't confuse and give your correct answers now. We have 10 seconds left. 8, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, time's up now. Okay, yeah, fine. So this time 170 hits to the correct answer. Thank you all. So let's wait for the winners for the today's quiz. Who are the lucky people to get the goodies chances from directly from you? But okay, so the winners are Himash Sarvani and Devendra Singh. Okay, so congratulations, Himash Sarvani, with the 2875 points. Very hearty congratulations for the first prize, and the second winner is Devendra Singh. Okay, Devendra Singh, very congratulations. So you both the guys, please send your details, address details clearly along with your phone numbers to the mentioned email address in the chat, which given by the Kiran. So please don't get confused. Himash Sarvani and Devendra Singh, please give your addresses. Thank you. Okay, so so even yesterday's winners also please send your addresses again, Ms. Prema and Mr. Chetan Anand.
Okay, Raghav, I just have one thing. So first of all, congratulations for both of you. for being so active and filling it on time with right answers. And apart from that, as I mentioned, that I have a YouTube channel, and also if you have any questions on the sessions, you can just go over the videos. I have database videos on my channel as well. So here I'm in the chat, I'm posting my YouTube channel, and also you can reach out to me in LinkedIn. I have provided my LinkedIn profile as well. So feel free to ask any questions that you have and to help you. That's all. Thank you so much, Raghav. You can take it over.
Okay, Harika, thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot again. Okay, guys. So so let's take a couple of minutes to have the queries, and we'll switch on this chat session as well. So Harika, if you are good, we can take a couple of questions from the users.
Raghav, like if it is possible, like can we stop the recording, or is like do we want to continue on the same?
Yeah, we'll stop the recording. Yeah, thank you.
Please do that from your end.
Yes, I have stopped.